A very good afternoon to one and all present here. And on behalf of VES College of Pharmacy, I welcome you all to this webinar. I would like to extend this welcome to our respected principal, Dr. Supriya Shidhai, to our speakers for this afternoon's session, Dr. Shweda Gupta and Dr. Kashmir Malbari, and also to the faculty members of VES College of Pharmacy, students, and the participants. The Institute Ethics and Research Committee, under the aegis of IQAC of VES College of Pharmacy, have organized this webinar today titled The Know-How of Scientific Writing, a Step-by-Step Guide. I feel privileged to have this opportunity to introduce Dr. Supriya Shidhai, the principal of VES College of Pharmacy on this occasion. Madam is a chairperson of the Board of Studies of the University of Mumbai. She has over 28 years of teaching and research experience. With her vast experience in research and academics, she has always guided and enlightened us. She is a lady who believes to lead by her own example. She has received a total research grant of 1 crore 5 lakhs and 98,000 rupees from various government bodies and pharmaceutical companies till date. She has many national and international publications and presentations to her credit. In this COVID era, we are constantly moving ahead and trying to adapt and evolve under her able guidance and constant motivation. She is our guiding light, mentor, and has a never to die spirit. We welcome you, ma'am. We will now proceed to the first session of today, how to proceed with scientific writing. Before we begin, dear participants, we encourage you to please type your questions in the chat box. These questions will be answered by the respective speakers at the end of the second session. Now, I would like to introduce the first speaker for today, Dr. Shweda Gupta. Dr. Gupta is currently associated with the Department of Pharmaceutics of VESCOP as an associate professor. She has over 10 years of academic and industrial experience. Madam has many publications in journals of repute with a good number of over 590 citations, and also a book chapter in Springer to her credit. She is a reviewer for Elsevier Journal, having an impact factor of 4.295. She has been awarded with the prestigious SPERWF Young Scientist Award for the year of 2019 in the SPER 9th Annual International Conference and Exhibition organized in India, and is also the recipient of the Research Excellence Award in 2021 for her publication in the reputed journal entitled Expert Opinion on Drug Delivery. With this brief introduction, I now request Dr. Shweta Gupta to address the audience.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you for the introduction. So let me share the screen. Just please confirm me, is my screen visible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's proceed with the first session on how to proceed with scientific writing as a part of webinar organized by IERC under the aegis of IQAC. Coming to the contents roadmap, I will be introducing you with the scientific writing, the process of scientific writing, the review articles, research articles, and a few miscellaneous tips. So first, coming to the introduction to scientific writing. Scientific writing is a technical form of writing that is designed to communicate scientific information to other scientists. It involves highly technical information and thus demands precision, clarity, readability. We must also keep in mind the other characteristics of a good scientific literature during the writing process. So let's quickly see some of the characteristics. It should be theme based. It should be effective and hence should be written in a simple and clear language. It should be brief and structured. Unless the conclusion or the data presented are absolute, you should always hedge your views or the inferences in scientific writing. And of course, the data presented should be authentic and reliable and must strictly adhere to the anti plagiarism rules. We should recognize the credit wherever applicable by applying proper citations. Coming to the need for this effective scientific writing and the different types. The need, as a researcher, we need scientific writing for presenting our research. By writing and publications, we are able to communicate with the global scientific community. Thus, we progress the scientific thought which helps in advancement of science. In addition to these, scientific writing is also involved in application for funding, and the writing and publications also as well as the funds also gives us credibility. And of course, it is required for academic degree as a part of thesis, synopsis, etc. If you want to classify it, we can classify them as peer reviewed or non peer reviewed, whether it is available in public or non public. The original research papers, the review articles, the conference reports are examples of peer reviewed scientific articles which are available in public. Peer reviewed scientific things which are non public include grant applications, fellowship proposals, theses, dissertations. Although, because of digitalization, now theses are also becoming public. The confidential reports correspondence remains non peer reviewed as well as non public. Whereas the book chapters, book reviews, academic materials, editorial comments all are public but may or may not be peer reviewed. In today's presentation, we'll focus mainly on the research papers and the review papers. Research papers are the reports. They report the results of original research, assesses its contribution to the body of knowledge in a given area, and is published in a peer-reviewed scholarly journal. Whereas a review article is an article that summarizes the current state of understanding on the topic through summary, classifications, analysis, and comparison. With this brief introduction, let's proceed to the process of scientific writing. The general procedure for it involves even before writing, the pre-writing stage. In the pre-writing stage, we should decide the topic, the purpose of writing. We should be aware with author guidelines. These will give us what we have to write, why we have to write, and how we have to write. For that, data collection will be involved, and based on that, a lot of brainstorming will be required to create an outline what and why we are going to write. After this outline stage, we come to the first draft and on the writing stage. Although appropriate choice of words, voice, tense, sentence structuring, everything is important. But on the first draft, while writing the first draft, instead of focusing much on that, we should focus on the contents and its logical organization. Once a first draft is written, which includes main contents, we have to revise that and polish that. For that, critically self-evaluate it. You read it, you self-evaluate it, how it can be modified in a better way. Refine the contents, revalidate the sentence structuring, reorganize wherever required. After it is finished from your end, you may request your colleagues and guides to have a view and give the comments. The second draft. There can be multiple drafts. After that, we can edit based on the modifications, suggestions which are being recommended. We can incorporate that, we can repolish that, We can revalidate the facts, conclusions, data points, and then finally, once again, get the approval from the mentor, and your manuscript will be ready for submission to the concerned person or the authority or the journal for publication, depending upon which scientific article you are writing. Of course, afterwards, it will have some comments which also needs to be addressed in a scientific way. So now let's move to writing of review articles. Now, review article, as I mentioned, is a critical, constructive analysis of the literature that summarizes the current state of understanding on a topic through summary, classification, analysis, and comparison. The main features of a review article is that it is based on already published literature. The author is not presenting any new research, but it is a standalone publication. The literature reviews which we write as a part of thesis is not considered a review article. The functions of review article is to organize the available literature, evaluate it, identify the trends in the reporting findings, synthesize the literature, and to identify the research gaps and recommend new research areas. The audience for it, of course, it is very much helpful to students or a novice researchers, but it is also read by experts in the specific research area because it gives in brief the recent updates on the topic, as well as it is utilized by different decision makers accordingly. There are different types of review articles based on mandate, objective, methods, but let's now focus mainly on how to write, how to proceed with writing. All the steps we discussed in scientific writing, the general procedure, are also applicable here. Just to give a little more emphasis on a few topics, for writing a review article, the first step is topic selection. For topic selection, first of all, evaluate yourself, your knowledge, your interest area, then your reader's interest. What topic readers will be interested in? Is the topic you are selecting is in current demand? And then you have to write a review article. So, is sufficient research articles on the topic available or not? Considering all these factors, we have to decide a broad topic. It may not be exact title, but a broad topic. Then comes the next step of literature search. Now, once the topic is decided, you collect as many as original research, good quality research articles available from reliable sources. Start reading. Read, and read as much as possible and critically evaluate them for comparison or try to find some trends in the reported literature. Then we can target our journal. So select a journal where it can be targeted. Of course, it will be based on scope and the recognition of the journal and miscellaneous other factors. The details will be covered in our session 2 of the webinar. With this information, we have to make a mind map to show the relationships between the studies, the concepts, the models, or the theories. It should be possible to read the map without perusing the entire text. Prepare a mind map, a concept map, and generate subtopics by critically evaluating the various literatures on the topic. Make an outline, means list out a few topics on which contents can be written. You may include some subtopics. So with that, your outline will be created. And then follow all the steps of first draft, second draft, which we have discussed for the scientific writing. Now, for scientific writing, proper references, citations are very much important. Nowadays, a lot of referencing tools are available. EndNote, Mendeley, Jotero are to name a few. More will be covered in the session 2 again. We can use that. It helps a lot in managing our references. Even if it is not, if even if you are not using any tools for it, it is advisable to write the references maybe in a Harvard style. means the author's name and the year, so that it can be retrieved later that which information had been obtained from where. Once all the draft is ready with following all the procedures mentioned above, the manuscript becomes ready for the submission for publication. So this is a general procedure for review article. Now let's quickly see what are the elements of a review article. So first it includes the title, which is the most important and which generate the reader's interest. It should be between 8 to 12 words, no citations, must be concise but informative. Next, authors and their affiliations. The first author is the most significant contributor, and usually the last author is one who coordinates the project and had the original idea for the review. Number of authors, although no specific restrictions, but it varies from journal to journal. Affiliations of each author are also mentioned. Next comes keywords, which are the key terms, 5 6 terms are written for easy retrieval of the data by other scientists. Then comes the abstract, again very important. It is of 200 to 250 words. It must be concise and informative. No citations are there. It is a brief summary. Usually, the first few lines expresses the objectives and describes the context and intention of the review. In between the body and then the conclusions, last lines of few conclusions. This is how a review article looks like, indicating all the features: the title, the authors, affiliations, keywords, and the abstract. Coming to the next element, introduction. It provides information about the context and indicates the motivation for the review writing. It has multiple citations and it covers about 10 to 20% of the total review article text. Here we should follow a funnel approach. Means we should start with a general topic because a person who is starting reading may not be very well aware with the exact scientific title which we are writing. So we have to start with a general broad topic and then we have to narrow down to the topic, exact topic with supporting studies. So basically a few 3 4 paragraphs may be included here, which should include the subject background, the topic, issue, area, the problems, the trends, new perspectives, gaps, conflicts, and why the review article has been written. This is the example of the introduction from a review article. Here you can see only in the first paragraph, 14 citations have been done. So introduction is one where maximum citations are done. If we classify the major contents of the review articles, mainly we can classify them as the introduction part, main body, and then conclusion. Now there is a no fixed rule how the main part is to be written. It depends upon the topic and the content. We have to categorize different subtopics and write. But what we have to keep into consideration is try to include as many illustrations, figures, tables as possible, and not as possible, I should say, wherever applicable. It should not be too much, of course, for comparison, evaluation, to present the data in crisp form. It should include critical analysis, discussions, and comparisons on the results from the original articles with proper citations to determine the major points and trends which are observed and probable reasons for the same based on the scientific knowledge in the field. Yes, it should include citations which can be non-integral or integral. Main body constitutes about 70 to 90% of the total text. In writing, yes, we should be specific whether we have to use present tense, past tense, or present perfect. Usually, present tense is used for reporting what another author thinks or believes or writes, or for reporting current knowledge or information of general validity. We use present tense. But if we refer to what specific researcher did found, or a single study, we say we use past tense. Suppose so and so author has investigated this, reported this. But if it is representing an area of research where multiple independent researchers are involved, then we use present perfect tense. Like so and so has been investigated by these scientists. The main part must be well organized in a logical form. Coming to the conclusion, it includes 5 to 10% of the core text. Major implications of the findings are reported. It includes the interpretations by the authors, which are separate from the factual information which has been reported in earlier research article. So, as a writer of review article, you should interpret in your own way based on your scientific knowledge about that report. It helps in identification of the future research scope on the topic. Citations in conclusions are usually not there. Even if it is there, it will be very few. It there, but conclusions and abstracts are different. Acknowledgements, yes, whosoever is supporting, mainly the funding agency. In case of research articles, funding agencies or anybody who has significantly contributed for our work is acknowledged. No citations are required here. References, next, it acknowledges the work of other scientists and it is required to avoid any cases of plagiarism. It includes every reference cited in the text, but do not include additional references. Then it becomes bibliography. Okay. Usually for a review article, minimum 50. For good articles, even more than that, 80. Even good review articles may go up to 300 or beyond references. Next, after review article, let's move on to the research articles. The basic concepts remains the same. Coming to the elements of the research article, first, the title. Yes, it should be also 10 to 15 words around. The nouns should be capitalized. The most important, it should be informative and descriptive, specific and concise, easily understandable, relatively less technical. Otherwise, readers will lose the interest to read your article. It should be written in such a way that it briefly describes the subject matter as well as briefly summarizes it so that a reader can predict what he can expect in the article. Next, author's name and affiliation, very much similar to that of review articles. Keywords, again similar. We have to identify those terms which will best closely correlate with the methods or the process or the concepts. Okay, and is required for easy retrieval of the data by other scientists. In some of the journals, there is a concept of running head, which is a shortened version of the title of the research article, which is mentioned on each page of the article. Next comes the abstract of the research article. It's usually one para long, about 100 to 250 words, as per the author's guideline. No abbreviations or citations are used in abstract. Usually we use active voice, past tense for procedures, present tense for the results. The abstract should be concise yet comprehensive summary of purpose, methods, results, and conclusion. It helps after title, the scientists read the abstract and then they decides which research article they have to study in detail. So abstract must be carefully and written with efforts. It should be comparatively less technical. Easy to understand language should be used. Next part comes the introduction. Again, in an introduction, we have to follow the funnel approach, as I mentioned earlier. In the introduction, we have to write in such a way that it answers why that research is important, why it is being carried out, means the background information from a broader aspects to the hypothesis of your research. So we have to follow the funnel style. Usually it is about one page or 1 to 4 paragraphs. It includes general introduction and all. New terms, if any abbreviation is there, whatever is used first time, it should be explained. Here the rationale of the work is being established. Coming to the materials and methods, the next section, all the detailed information should be provided. For materials, the grades and the sources should be mentioned. The methods in detail, when, where, how much was taken. It should be written in such a way that anybody else in the field having basic knowledge should be able to replicate that experiment. Now, in the materials and methods, these four categories are involved. Either some subject or the participants, like animal studies, animals, or in clinical trials, humans are involved. So we have to mention everything: who, how many, what was the age, strain, weight, etc. For apparatus and instrumentation, what we are using, we have to mention the model number, the company. Of course, details of furnitures, pencils are not required. Design, yes, which design we are using, what are the independent variables, what are the dependent variables, how we are proceeding for that, why we have selected that particular procedure, all these things should be mentioned. And then in detail about the procedure, how you have referred. Citations will also be involved if you are following a procedure which is already being used by others. Next, tables and figures. A table is a systematic method of presenting the statistical data in a vertical columns and horizontal rows according to some classification of subject matter. Whereas a figure is a device that presents statistical data in the graphic form and includes graphs, charts, diagrams, sketches, maps, drawing, pictures, etc. Every table and figure must be numbered. Titles must be assigned. They should be self descriptive. The description, the title of the table is mentioned above the table, whereas it is given below the figure. In case of figure, it is below. Table number at the top of the table. We have to follow whatever guidelines are given, which styles are to be followed, and all as per the author's guidelines. Then comes the results and discussions. The main element, I can say, which differentiates the quality of our publication. Procedures are usually described in every journal, but how you are discussing the results which are obtained makes the difference. So, in the results, of course, you have to report whatever you have obtained. All the data may not be presented, but all useful data, whether it is positive or negative, results should be reported. Then we have to compare that with the earlier reports in similar research, whether it is in compliance with the same or it is in conflicting. Then in the discussion part, we have to describe based on our scientific knowledge which is existing, how, why it should have happened. Okay. So whatever the expected results or unexpected results are obtained, you have to discuss on that based on the scientific informations. We have to critically analyze that. This discussion part is the one which depicts the author's or the scientist's ability to analyze, evaluate, interpret, and reasoning capabilities. Here, explain the significance and implications of your work. If some generalizations, some trends can be made, okay, you have to write that. Next element, conclusion. Yes, we have to briefly summarize what we are concluding from our work. Comment on the importance and relevance of your findings. How your findings can be useful, how it can be progressed in research should be mentioned. Again, the acknowledgement section is optional as mentioned in the review article, but usually we should ethically acknowledge our funding agency, our organization, one who is providing free gift samples or of drugs, excipients, etc. We need to acknowledge them. Then comes the references. There are different referencing styles, so we have to follow as per the author's guidelines for a particular journal. There are different styles. Basically, Harvard style and Vanagawa styles are there. In Harvard style, as I had mentioned earlier, author date system is mentioned in the text. And in Vanagawa, author number is written 1, 2, 3. Now, in the end portion, it is there are two components for that. One is in the text and one is at the end. So when we write references, when we say reference, all that what is cited in the text, that only we are including. In books, etc., we also include other references which we have included We have got the knowledge, but we may not have cited there. It becomes a bibliography. Different referencing styles are American Chemical Society, American Medical Association. So these are all available. And nowadays, with the help of these referencing tools, it has become easier to convert one form into another as per the journal requirement. So this was about research articles. Now let's come to some miscellaneous steps for scientific writing. I have mentioned we have to use concise and precise words. Now, the examples of right choice of the words. Say, for example, instead of writing, due to the fact that, why not to write because? In a considerable number of cases, simply write often. The vast majority of, most, during the time that, when, in close proximity to, near. Say, for example, in phrases, the enzyme was found to the active agent in catalyzing. The enzyme catalyzed. See here, a long sentence. An increased appetite was manifested by the rats and an increase in body weight was measured. This could be a way, but the better way could be the rats ate more and gained weight. Be crisp. Now, some focus areas at different stages of writing. When we are at the pre writing stage, focus more on the audience, the purpose of writing, why you are writing. Write ideas, make notes, draw the figures, spelling, grammar, etc. may be ignored at this stage. That can be taken care of later. During the writing stage, a tip I can say may not be suitable for all, but start with easiest section. Say, for example, for a research article, experimentation part comparatively becomes easier. What you have done, you write down. The results, what you have obtained, you can write. Then, followed by discussions and introduction can be written. Abstract can be written earlier, but it should be finalized at the end. During the revision stage, we have to check the main purpose of is we have to check that the main purpose is focused or not, and of course, the clarity of presentation is there or not, proper reasoning is there or not. During the editing stage, we have to check that all the data is accurate or not, review for grammatical errors, spell check, sentences structure, etc. And then finally proofread it. And online on soft copy, many of the things are not visible, so it is advisable print and then read carefully your report again and revise it. Overall, the length of research report should neither be too long, otherwise readers will lose the interest. It should not be too short, otherwise it will not cover all the informations. Use simple language, avoid technical jargons, use short sentences, write concisely, write accurately, make sure you write what you mean. You should present the logical analysis of the subject matter. Keep the abbreviations number to a very strict minimum because many times it is not understood. Even if it is being used, explain all the abbreviations. Usually, at the first context, wherever it is being used, the full form should be mentioned. Use graphs, charts, statistical tables, etc., wherever appropriate. Use a spell checker, but don't blindly agree to every change suggested by a spelling or grammar checker. Use them merely as a guideline. Sometimes, say for example, the self-emulsifying drug delivery system, SEDS. By autocorrection, it becomes SEEDS. And in many published articles also, you can see the SEDS being written as SEEDS. This should not happen. Next, the word limits. It again differs from journal to journal, but if we talk about the approximate words, the abstract about 200 to 350 words, introduction 150 to 250 300 words, methods same, results and discussions makes the main portion. A critical evaluations should be included in the discussions. It's about 1000 for results, 1000 for discussion. So the more you will discuss, in the sense it should give some positive impact, the better it is. You can include some comparisons with the previous one. You should give the probable reason for that. Okay. and then concluding few sentences or a paragraph. So, coming to the conclusion of today's this session, what we can conclude is scientific writing is not an afterthought, but it begins well before drafting the first outline. One scientific report does involve multiple drafts. A good scientific publication may require long, accurate, sincere efforts amalgamated with patience. It takes time. Publication also takes time. But once published, it may give you credibility lifelong and even after to the authors, to the research team, and contributes for the advancement of scientific knowledge. These are some of the references. These are some of the citations and references for me. Questions and answers, as mentioned, will be taken after session 2. Thank you. Over to you, Aaron.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful session and guiding us through this important topic. I'm sure the students have noted down and will definitely implement these absolute fundamentals of scientific writing for both review and research articles that you have shared with us today. We move now to the second session of the day. I would like to introduce Dr. Kashmir Malbari. She is currently an assistant professor of the Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry of VES College of Pharmacy. She has over 5 years of research and teaching experience. Madam has 7 publications and 10 presentations to her credit. Her area of interest includes computationally aided drug design, synthesis, and their biological evaluation. Most notably, she has worked on the Indian Council of Medical Research sponsored 3-year research project on the H1N1 influenza virus from 2015-2019. With this brief introduction, I request Dr. Khushbu Malabari to address the audience.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Aaron, for this lovely introduction. Let me share the screen first. Is it visible, Aaron? Can you confirm, please?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. So we will start with the second topic for today's webinar, that is general selection, referencing, and plagiarism. So we have to think, learn, and then publish, right? So what every researcher should know, that is selection of the suitable journal, to beware of the predatory journal, referencing and citations, and plagiarism in the internet age. So let us see one by one. We will first start with the selection of right journal for your manuscript. So here are few questions that you should ask yourself when selecting a journal for your manuscript. Okay, and there are few criteria. So the first criteria is journal aims and scope. Okay, and the first question that you should ask yourself is, does the subject of your article match the journal's specific focus? That is, what kind of research does the journal focus on? Okay, what is the scope of that journal? Then if the article type that you have prepared is published by the journal, okay, for example, if you have prepared a case report, okay, does the journal you are targeting publish the case studies? That you should ask yourself. Then what is the readership and target audience of the journal? Is it a multidisciplinary or specialty journal? How popular is it among your peers? Okay, does it prefer papers from some specific regions or not? So this is the first criteria that you should ask yourself. The next criteria is prestige and visibility. Is the journal considered prestigious in your field? That is, what do your senior colleagues and peers think of this journal? Is it well known or read in your field? The next is the impact factor of your journal. How important is the impact factor for you or your work? Okay, how does your target journal's impact factor is compared to the other journals in the same field? Then is the journal included in relevant electronic databases? So is the journal listed in bibliographic and subject specific database? Are these widely used in your field? Then does the journal publish an online edition? So it will help, okay, for increasing the visibility of your article. Journals with online versions can help you reach out to a wider audience as compared to print only journals. Then the third criteria is review and publication process. Okay, so the first question under this is, what is the publication frequency of the journal? So how soon do you want your paper published? Okay, a monthly journal may review your paper faster, but this should not be the only factor for choosing the journal that we will see when we are seeing this presentation. The next is, what is the turnaround time for decisions and publication? So what is the peer review period? Will there be very long wait from submission to publication? That you have to ask. Then is there a publication delay after acceptance? Because this might affect your further research plans. So you should take into consideration this point. Then what are the publication charges? Whether this publication charges is including the entire article processing fee or the reprints or the color figures. And you also need to know whether your funder will bear these costs or not. Then, does the journal have an open access policy? Okay, will publishing your open access benefit you? How long after publication will your paper become open access? So these are few questions that you should ask yourself when selecting a journal for your manuscript. Okay. Then there are certain search engines also available on the net for every researcher's help. So this is one of the examples, Elsewhere Journal Finder. You can go to this link, you can find this window wherein you can put your title over here, you can put your abstract here. Okay, there are options to put the keywords also, and there are certain other fields also which you can put in. Now, once you put it, for example, over here I have added one paper title. This is the tentative title, of course, of your paper. Then the paper abstract. Okay, if you don't have the abstract prepared with you at that stage, need not to worry. We have this don't have an abstract option also. You can click on this, and there are several options that you can opt for. Now, once you are done with the paper title and the paper abstract, you will click search option. Then the journal finder from elsewhere will give you a list of journals that is matching your paper. And then you can sort it out with the help of these options as well. Journal name, site score, impact factor, acceptance rate, and etc. Okay. Then you can scroll down for the list. Okay. You can also play with these options if you want only the journals which accept the gold open access, or you want to go for the free journals, that is the journals with subscription. That also you have the option over here. And then you can go down, you can screen the list, and you can then select your journal based upon the impact factor, acceptance rate, the time to publication. So which journal is suitable for your article, that you can select and go for submitting your manuscript into it. Then this is another publisher which also provides such option, how to choose a journal, Taylor and Francis Journal. Then this option is also available in Springer. Okay, this is this link. You can click on this. You can find out the right journal for your manuscript. It also gives you the list of the journals, okay, with the acceptance rate and the days to publish. So you can choose on to the journals. Then there is this one more site, Advanced Innovative Scientific Solutions. Okay, it also provides the journal selector option. Okay, over here also you can put the general field, the journal name, publisher, abstract, keyword. So any suitable keyword or any suitable title abstract, you can paste it over here, and you can find out the journal for that, suitable journal for that. Then here are some of the publishers, the authentic publishers, okay, which have the authentic journals. The list is of course very huge, but these are some to name, okay, very renowned publishers. Then one more way of selecting the journal is, see, now throughout your research career, you might be exploring various literatures, you might be going through a lot of research articles that are related to your topic, okay. So after every article, there is this reference section, right? So you can go through that reference section also, and you can find out the journals which this paper has cited, right? So like that also you can find out the suitable journal for your study or your topic, right? Then, in their eagerness to get published, young researchers often fall prey to predatory publishers. Okay, so we have a certain checklist to help you identify the reliable journals and stay away from these predatory ones. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is contact information. Find out the contact information, whether the complete contact information is available on their website. And whether those addresses are verifiable, the address of the publisher, okay, whether it is not the residential address of some random person, that you can find out. Okay, then the scope of the journal, whether it is multidisciplinary, combination of multiple unrelated wide ranging fields, very vague aims and scope is written over there in the predatory journals, that you can just think upon. Then the editorial board, whether it includes recognized or affiliated experts. Now, tip here is you can contact few and inquire about their experience with the journal. Okay, and sometimes it happens that when you contact these experts, they only don't know that their names are there in their editorial board of the predatory publishers. So that rings the alarm bell to you. Then comes the author fee policy, whether it is mentioned on the website. Okay, authenticated journals always mention this author fee policy on their website, the complete fee. Okay, but the predatory journals sometimes they don't publish this on their website, and what happens is you have submitted your article. Once it is accepted, then the mail comes from the predatory publisher that this is the publication fee you have to pay. Okay, now as a young researcher, what do you think? Now it's okay, I have submitted my paper already and so much time has already gone, so let us just pay the fee and get our article published. But it is not the case. Sometimes what happens, you pay the fee, the journal accepts the fee, and later on your article doesn't get published at all. Okay, and you keep on mailing them, you keep on contacting them, but it's a dead end. Okay, so always see for this author fee policy whether they have mentioned on their website or not. Then the quality of the articles, whether the journal publishes good articles. Now Dr. Shweta Gupta has given you a lot of points and beautifully explained all the good points that has to be there in one good article, right? So now you can easily segregate between the good or the bad articles. Okay, maybe the poor language is there, maybe the flow is not proper. Okay, and if suppose you are not able to segregate the articles between good or bad, what you can do is you can just forward these papers to your department head or the supervisor to gauge its quality. Okay. Then the next is peer review process, whether it is described on the website or not, because creditable journals, that is the authenticated journals, always display this. Then the indexing information, whether the journal is indexed or member of prominent publication association, that you have to look for. Okay. Now, even if the journal is claiming that that is indexed in some official site, we have certain software to find out whether they are actually indexed in the Scopus or Web of Science or not. That we will see in our subsequent slides. Then you have to see whether there is a display of ICV. Okay. Now, what is ICV? ICV is the index Copernicus value. Okay. Now, this value, generally the authenticated journals, the creditable journals do not show this value on their website. Okay. So, as a new researcher or as a young researcher, you may find that, okay, this ICV looks to be something extraordinary, so this journal might be a good journal. But beware, this ICV is not at all displayed in the authenticated journals. Then there is this retraction policy. Okay, authenticated journals always show this retraction policy on their websites, but you have to see whether there is a clear-cut policy of recalling articles on any journal site. Then pitch for authors. Pitch for authors. If the journal is guaranteeing the publication or it is guaranteeing a quick peer review, it is wrong. Okay, just set alarm. Okay, the alert alarm, because this peer review process is not something that takes a very less time. Okay, it's a very huge process. Okay, and this peer review process is impossible to be finished earlier, and no authenticated journal can guarantee a publication. So this is an alert alarm to you all. Okay, because see, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't. Then email invitation. You have to see whether the editors and the staff have institutional or journal affiliated email addresses and not some random @gmail.com, @redifmail.com, @yahoo.com. So that should not be there. Now, we have certain sources to evaluate your journals. Okay, so beware of predatory journals that you can do by having the checklist in front of you. Then there are these sources: Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed Index. So they have a list of authenticated journals into that. We will see one example of that also. Then there is this other look at the impact factor. Okay, this is important, and you should know that only the Thomson Reuters and General Citation Report, that is JCR impact factors, are the authenticated impact factors. Okay, there is one more, that is Science Journal Impact Factor. Now this is Science Journal Impact Factor. There is a clone to this too. Okay, that is Scientific Journal Impact Factor. Now you see the difference here. It is Science Journal Impact Factor, and the cloned one is the Scientific Journal Impact Factor. So this is something you should not see, and you should only rely upon the SCI journal factor, not the Scientific Journal Impact Factor. Then here are some websites where you can find out these predatory journals. You can go to this link. Okay, this is the Web of Science list. You can enter the title of the journal over here. You can search it. Okay, and if suppose I am adding bioorganic chemistry into this, if this journal is authenticated and listed in the Web of Science group, it will show exact match found. So you can just be assured that whatever journal you are going to select is the authenticated journal, right? And as I said before, uh, while going through the literatures, as I said that in the reference list you may find various journals of your interest. Okay, but but for that also you need to keep some things into mind. For example, I've gone through this reference, this International Journal of Creative Research Thoughts. Now from the name of the journal itself you find that something is fishy. Okay, then I went to this site. Okay, and when you just copy this entire journal title and paste it in Google, okay, the very first thing that comes is this dialog box, this advertisement. Okay, now keep this in mind. The authenticated journals, the credited journals, do not show this pop-up advertisements ever. They need not show this advertisement. Okay, so if you are getting this pop-up advertisement, this is the first alert alarm to you. Okay, and the next alert alarm is, see now here this journal is claiming that they will be publishing the article in 2 to 3 days, which is not at all possible as we discussed earlier. Okay, because peer review process itself takes a quite a good amount of time for giving you the responses. Okay, so this is the second alarm alert to you all. Okay, then this journal also claims that it is a UGC approved journal. Okay, now to find out whether some journals are actually UGC approved journals or not, okay, we will see that. We have seen for Web of Science, it is similar for Scopus also. We will see for UGC approved journals now. Now this is the link which you can go to, and you will find this option. Okay, now this UGC approved list of journals has been replaced by UGC care list. Okay, when you will click this, it will take you to this window. Okay, wherein you can put the journal name and find out whether it is listed or not. Okay, other way is this UGC website is giving you the list of cloned journals. Okay, now what are these cloned journals? We will see from the examples only. Now there are two groups. When I will click this group 1, it will take me to this window, and now see the journals which are on your left side. These are the authenticated journals and included into the care list. Okay, but here as you can see, the name of the journal Abru, okay, it is there, but it is suffixed with a journal thing. Okay, so this shows that it is a cloned journal. Okay, the rest of the information, the language, the publisher, ISSN, everything is just copy pasted, right? But this is the cloned journal for whatever actual reputed journal it is. Then the next is group 2. Okay, when I will click this group 2, it will take to the again a separate list. Now over here also you can see the title of the journal. Okay, it is repeated with just a suffix journal to it. Okay, there are so many journals listed over here, and many international and Indian journals are like this, the cloned journals, right? So here also you can see the publisher is not applicable over here. The URL is also different. Okay, and sometimes what happens when you are trying to click that URL, the site won't open only. Right? So these are the alert alarms to you all. Then there are other sites also where you can find the predatory journal. This is again one example. This link, it also gives you the list of predatory journals, the hijacked journals. Okay, now what are these hijacked journals? These are same as the cloned journals which we just discussed. Okay, the journal title which is actually the authenticated journal. For that some suffix is added, and then they spread the journal. Then there is this Bales list also. This is the site for that. You can go and find out the potential predatory journals. Now, apart from all that, okay, sometimes when you are actually trying to publish the article, okay, you will find that few of the publishers are sending you the mail for invitation of publishing your article. Okay, and the mail or the publisher is claiming that your article will be published within 3 working days in January issue. Okay, right, we discussed this. I mean, it's nearly impossible for the publishing any article within 3 working days. Okay, and see, it's a very blunt way of telling you all, but you will never be invited to submit a paper in some reputed journal unless you have achieved a high standard in your research area. Okay, so you will see also that only the topmost researchers or the senior faculties, they are getting invitations from the reputed journals, but we as a young researchers, we will not get invitations from the reputed journals to publish any articles. So beware of that. Then there is this one more initiative, think, check and submit initiative for spotting the predatory journals. They also have the checklist and the list of predatory journals. Now, once you have prepared your manuscript and submitted to some journal, okay, now what after submitting the journal? Okay, now there is a process called peer review. Okay, now it's kind of a necessity, and most of the researchers hate to wait because sometimes it takes quite a good amount of time before it publishes any article or gives response to any article. Okay, but it is necessary. So why it is necessary? It's a quality control mechanism. It is a safeguarding mechanism by experts, which is very important for genuine research, the novelty, the originality of the work. Okay, all these are looked upon by the peer reviewers. Now, the peer review process. Okay, the author submits the article to some journal. The article is assessed by the editor. Okay, and editor can reject your article or it can send it to the reviewer. Okay, now this rejection at this level from the editor, it is also called the desk rejection. Okay, now if there can be any reason for that, maybe poor language, maybe poor flow of the article, or it might so happen that your article is not suitable for the scope of that journal also. Okay, so then it can get rejected. So if the editor finds it useful, then it will send it to the reviewer. Reviewer will give his suggestions and comments back to the editor. Then the editor, along with the suggestions, will send it back to the authors, saying that revisions are required. Then the author will incorporate those changes, and he submits the revised manuscript. That will be again assessed by the editor, and it will be sent to the reviewer. So this cycle might go on for major revisions and the minor revisions. Okay, and then later on, based upon your incorporation of those suggestions and the comments or the justifications, your article can be rejected or accepted. Yes, your article can get rejected at this level also if whatever suggestions or the comments by the reviewers are there, you have not incorporated it in a proper way. Then if it is accepted, congratulations, it will go to your production and then it will be published. Now, types and frequency of decisions from the journal editor. Okay, acceptance of the manuscript as received. Okay, it is very rarely, but if this happens, congratulations to you. But mostly what happens is there is minor revisions and the major revisions. Then the next is reject and resubmit. Now it is not something outright rejection, okay, but you are asked to make some extensive changes in your study, and then your manuscript will be considered as a new submission. Okay, and the last one is reject without review. Okay, that is the desk rejection that we have discussed earlier, but this is not the end of the world. Now, how to respond to reviewer comments? Now, what is the correct way to answer or give justification to the reviewer? Now, it is really important because it is something that is not taught to us anywhere. So, I hope this could be useful and makes sense also. Okay. Now, this is called a calm technique. Okay. There are multiple ways, but in a nutshell, it is important to not take referee's comments personally. See, whenever any referee questions your hard work, you feel bad. You feel you feel like a personal attack. You feel rejected. I would say do not take it personally, because it's only a way of improving your work, your manuscript, and improve the chances of the article getting published in a better way. You know? So don't respond immediately. Don't start dashing upon the responses. Think over it properly. Start afresh. Take 1 or 2 days. Once you calm down, you are in a better position to answer the responses more objectively, right? So go in a sequential manner. List down the questions, answer them sequentially, neatly, and be mindful. Okay, be mindful for the reviewer and the editor, to navigate your responses and the changes. Okay, so what goes in your resubmission package? That is the cover letter, list of responses or the justifications, then your revised manuscript, which is a clean version of the manuscript as well. Okay. Then what if you cannot address a reviewer's suggestion? Now, if a reviewer suggests the addition of something which you have not done while doing the experiment on all, okay, for example, if the reviewer is asking you for a picture of experimental setup or the testing machine which you had not taken, okay, so how to respond to that? Okay, so the key is be honest, okay, be honest and mention that while you agree with the reviewer's suggestion, you had not thought of this at the time of experiment, and therefore you can ask the editor whether there is anything else which can be incorporated in place of the picture. Okay, for example, you can include a diagram or a flow chart, you know, to make your presentation more or your article more interesting. You can ask that to the editor. Now the next thing is two reviewers giving conflicting comments. How to respond to that? Right, so it's a very confusing situation for you as an author, right? But there is no need for getting confused. Now see, you are the author, it's your prerogative, you know your study well than anyone else does, you know, so you should stand your ground, identify the reviewer that you must closely identify with, and you are not and I must say you are not trying to be like a referee over here and reconcile. Okay, you present your case with adequate evidences, references, citations, you know, and then say this to editor that this is why you agree with reviewer 1 and going ahead with minor changes instead of reviewer 2. So at last you have a final say in all these, right? Now even after all these, if your manuscript gets rejected, okay, so this is not the only journal where you can actually publish your article. Okay, you can try out for the other journals as well, but mind it that whatever suggestions comments are received from the editor or the reviewer, you should incorporate those into your article to make it more to improve it, and then you can submit it to the other journal, right? So it's a very long and it's a very difficult task for submitting the manuscript and getting accepted. Now we will move on to the references and citations. So there are multiple ways to present the reference and citations. Okay, there is this author date citations, which are alphabetically arranged references, then numbered citations, which are chronologically arranged references, numbered citations, alphabetically arranged numbered references. That means the citations are numbered, but in the reference list they will be alphabetically arranged. Okay, but this is very rarely used and not used mostly nowadays. Okay, you can find these in very old papers as such. So we will see the examples. The numbered style, the very famous example is the Vancouver style. You can see the references are given the numbers, okay, and as and when they are cited in the text, and these numbers will be reflected in the reference list number wise, means they will be numbered in this case, right? Now the author date style, the authors will be mentioned along with the publication year of that paper, so this will be there cited in the text, and in the reference list they will be arranged alphabetically from A to Z. Now here are some referencing tools which will help you to manage your references. These are certain further reads for how to use and what all things you should consider. Okay, now we will see one example, Mendeley. Okay, these are the steps by which you can download and install Mendeley on your desktop. After you install it, okay, now you are referring to an article on a particular journal. Okay, you have gone online. Okay, there is this option of download citation. You can download that citation into one of your folders for references. Okay, then you can add that reference from here, add files, right? Or you can add the entry manually also. So whichever files you are adding, okay, the references will be seen over here as a list. Okay, then the next thing is to decide upon the citation style. Okay, this is different for different journal. It completely depends upon what the journal wants. Okay, so in the author guidelines they will be giving you the reference style also. Okay, so if the journal is listed over here, it's well and good, you just click on that and the entire list will be arranged in that order depending upon the requirements of the journal. If the style is not mentioned over here, we can go to this more styles. When you will click this more styles, it will give you one window. Okay, and you can type down the journal. If that is already installed in the Mendeley, okay, it will give like this. It is already installed and you can use this style. But if suppose it is not listed in the installed option, you can go to get more styles. You can write down the journal's name over there, and then you can install that style, that citation style. Okay, and once you will install it and you will click on use this style, the entire list of the references will be automatically arranged according to the requisites of that particular journal. Now this is the most important topic because it leads to insult, the retractions. Okay, now it is important to note that these retractions also, see, it is not like the articles which are retracted just vanish from the journal. Okay, but it will be written in red letters, retracted. Now why it is important? It is important because you don't want your study to be based upon such retracted or falsified or invalid results, right? So there is this retraction watch. You can Google it. It will give you the list of retractions that you can just go through, right? For example, see, one of the reasons for retraction is falsification or fabrication of data. Now you can see this clinical study about removal of warts. Okay, now you can see this before and after picture, right? So there are these warts which are magically gone into the after picture. Okay, but you should notice that the shirt that the patient is wearing is same, the facial expressions are same, even the hair growth, okay, are same. Okay, so this is just the photoshopped image that the author is submitting. Then this kind of panels, okay, which the microbiologists take the pictures of the microscopic slides. Okay, even this can be cloned. Okay, there is this tool, this clone stamp tool, which is very famous among the you can say the manipulative researchers. Okay, what they do is they can clone one area of that slide to another. You can see these regions are same, even these regions are same, right? So see, there are softwares and there are methods to identify, or you can say catch, these manipulations. Okay, and see, this kind of manipulations can get your paper retracted, and once your paper is retracted, it is publicized also. So you can just imagine that how shameful that would be. There are ways to catch these. And see, there are some keen observers also. The very famous is Dr. Elizabeth Wick. You can go to her Twitter. You can follow her on Twitter, or you can follow her blog also, Science Integrity Digest. Okay, on a daily basis she finds such papers, and she lists down on her blog, and it is very embarrassing to find so many Indian authors on her list, okay, with those papers got retracted. So you should not do this practice, falsification or fabrication. Whatever you have, publish it ethically. Then there is this salami slicing, which I would like to make you all aware. That is the fragmenting the results of a study and reporting them in multiple papers. That is referred to salami slicing. Okay, so it just increases the publication number on the author's CV, but it is not increasing any amount of knowledge, right? So, as a general rule, as long as the slices of a broken up study share hypothesis, population, and methods, that is not acceptable practice. Okay, same slide should not be published more than once. Okay, for example, you have completed a study on the birth defects, okay, and you have one set of mothers and one set of infants. Now it is not at all accepted that you are publishing two papers out of it. One paper will have set of mother and one paper will have set of infants, so it is ethically wrong. Now we will go on to the favorite topic, that is plagiarism, right? So it is the theft of ideas beyond what would normally be called a general knowledge. Then there are types of plagiarism. The wholesale plagiarism, which is stealing of entire material written by someone else and submitting as if it is his or her own. So this is the most blatant type. The next is the mosaic plagiarism. In that we have verbatim, that means copying of the words or phrases from a source without using quotation marks to denote the verbatim portions. Then we have conceptual plagiarism, incorporating the distinctive ideas or new facts established from a source without attribution. Then we have structural plagiarism, that is adopting someone else's approach to solve a hypothesis or problem statement without appropriate attribution to that. Now, this is one example. Okay, this Indian author has published one article into Korean Journal of Anesthesiology. Okay, now what this author has done, he has just changed the title, okay, the words here and there, and published the same work in another journal in anesthesia and analgesia. So the other journal came to know about this, so they have retracted this paper. You can see the retraction notice also, which states that there are few changes here and there with some additions or deletions into the content, and therefore the paper is being retracted. So it's a very shameful or embarrassing point. So now, if suppose there is a very nicely written article in some other language which you are well versed with, okay, so will it be ethically or morally will it be ethical to shorten it a bit or change a bit and then publish it in your own words or in English? Okay, so the answer is a big no. This is called the disguised plagiarism, or compression plagiarism, or translation plagiarism. It is also ethically wrong. Then why plagiarism prohibition is necessary? To attest quality, to promote research, to preserve and promote originality, and to stick to ethics and honesty. Now, there are some tips on how to avoid plagiarism. You can make use of quotation marks and insert citations. Then avoid self-plagiarism and text recycling. Understand the literature well and reproduce the content in your own words while retaining the meaning. You can also make use of professional editing services to polish the language if you're not confident about your writing. Now, these are some of the plagiarism detection tools which you can make use of. Here is a very small demo of one of the plagiarism detection tool. Sorry. I guess now this is one online plagiarism tool wherein you can put your content over here and you can analyze it, and it will give you sorry, somehow the video is not working. it will give you the report of how much plagiarized or similar content you have. Okay, so on the basis of your score, you can modify your writing so that your article will be unique. So, at last, I would like to say that there is actually no need for all these plagiarism tools if you're honest enough and confident about your writing. Okay, but sometimes it may happen that you accidentally or unknowingly commit this mistake. So, it has to be avoided to promote research and originality in all the fields. So, at last, I would like to give some acknowledgements. I would like to thank Dr. Shupriya Sidhe ma'am, our principal, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to thank Dr. Harsha Katpalia, Dr. Anita Aire, and Dr. Rajeshri Hillekar ma'am for continuous guidance. And last but not the least, I would like to thank my MPharm and PhD mentor, Dr. Meena Kanyakar, um, who has inculcated all these research ethics into me. Yeah, so happy publishing, select a proper journal, beware of predatory journals, use referencing tools, avoid plagiarism, and then you can have your paper published in a very good journal. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an illuminating session. And I am sure that the students have been enlightened with how to choose the most suitable journal for their research, and to be cautious and avoid predatory journals. One can be confident that the knowledge of the students has been increased with regard to referencing their articles, avoiding retracted articles as references, and be encouraged to avoid plagiarism and maintain the integrity of their research and their personality and themselves. We will now have the Q&A session. Dear participants and attendees, we encourage you to please type your questions in the chat box so that the speakers can address them. We already have two questions. So the first question is from Dr. Anand Chintakrandi. How can we decide whether a journal is national or international? I think this question is directed to Dr. Kashmir Malbari.
That as one of the criteria. Okay, and from the publishing house also, the addresses of, sorry, is there any disturbance? Yeah. The addresses of the publisher or the editors can tell you whether that is an Indian journal or an international journal. I hope that answers the question.
The next question is from Apurva Bakre. What are the steps for publishing in a book chapter, and what precautions should be taken for the same?
Dr. Shweta would like to answer this.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. For book, again, depending upon the quality, we have different. Usually, for from good publishers, based on their profile, we get invitations. Based on how much research articles we have, how many citations we have, based on that, the editor sends an invitation to write that. Others or new publishers are also coming who sends invitation, or where we can also approach after writing the journal, some book chapter or something. We can communicate with them that so and so thing is available with us, and then some many new publishers are coming who are ready to publish after just a peer review or just a brief check. They are getting this, but reputed journals, yes, usually they send invitation based on some profile. Hope it is answering your question.
Dear students and attendees, I would like to repeat, we encourage you to please type your questions in the chat box if you have.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Dr. Khushbu, and thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Apurva.
Before we conclude today's webinar, I would like to invite Dr. Harsha Katpalia, Assistant Professor of the Department of Pharmaceutics and in charge of the IERC committee, to propose a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Today's webinar was full of knowledge and interesting tips for scientific writing. But before I give the vote of thanks, I would like to highlight important achievement of our college that we have achieved, and we have been awarded as the best pharmacy college in Maharashtra by Center for Education Growth and Research for our consistent and high level of teaching in education and research. So a big applause to our VESCOP team to get this esteemed award. Okay, thank you. So further, to give the vote of thanks for today, I would start with wholeheartedly thanking our esteemed speakers for today, Dr. Shweta Gupta and Mrs. Khushbu Malbari, for their untiring efforts for the presentation today and enlightening us on this topic. I extend my gratitude to our Honorable Trustee in Charge, Shri B.L. Bulani ji, and VESCOP Coordinator, Dr. Jharna Das, for their encouragement. I'm grateful to our Principal Madam, Dr. Supriya Shidhe, for her constant motivation and support to organize this webinar. I'm grateful and thankful to all the HODs, Dr. Rajeshri Hirlekar, Dr. Anita Aire, and Dr. Mushtaq Sheikh for their support. And I would like to give a special thanks to Dr. Anita for constantly giving her valuable inputs and guidance to us for organizing this webinar. And I would also like to thank our student members who have Aaron Tetis, Siddhita Gavde, and Prajakta Patil, who have been working hard to make this webinar a big success. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates of the webinar for paying your attention and having a great learning with us. Thank you all for your active participation to make this webinar a great success. Wishing you all a bright future ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Just a few announcements before we conclude. The link for the feedback form is shared in the chat box. All the participants and attendees are requested to fill the feedback form to avail the e-certificates. We have an upcoming webinar on the 18th of September 2021 entitled Multidisciplinary Research in Academics, the Need of the Hour. Participants are encouraged to register for the same. In the pursuit of our vision, creating competent pharmacy professionals to positively impact healthcare of the society, VESCOP is coming up with an add-on program for the budding pharmacists and pharmacy professionals. It is a 30 hours certificate course which will be online and on weekends. It is titled Data Analytics for Healthcare. Its frequency will be every Saturday for 10 Saturdays, and this will begin and commence on the 11th of September 2021. The timings will be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. For details, one can write to vescop.addoncourse@ves.ac.in. I repeat, vescop.addoncourse@ves.ac.in, all lowercase. Do subscribe to our college YouTube channel, VES College of Pharmacy, and stay connected with VESCOP through our social media platforms to get information on our upcoming events and activities. End of the announcements. With this, we now conclude the session. Thank you everyone for joining. Stay safe and stay healthy.